All right. Hello and welcome to part 3 of AdQ&A Live. So today we are talking about customer journey. So the numbers that you're going to hear about number of touch points in order to get somebody basically from discovery to intent to purchase is going to vary. But I mean, right now what we've been hearing is it's anywhere from 17 to 20 plus, right? So you think about the user journey that most people have to take before they purchase your product. It basically follows this sort of sales funnel, right? Discovery, consideration, and intent. And I'll just kind of touch on those really quickly as we go through here. So discovery, think about this as the sort of a billboard, right? This is, people don't even necessarily know that your product exists yet, and then they're sort of seeing the billboard for the first time. They are learning that this product is out there. Maybe they're aware that this category of product exists, but they didn't know that your specific offering was an option until they've been exposed to it. Consideration is basically the customer's gotten to the point now where they've said, okay, I'm aware that this is a thing that I can buy, and now I'm starting to think about buying it, right? So what does that mean? It could be that the person is seeking out reviews. Maybe they're looking for the best possible prices out there on the web. They're starting to, kind of see, is this, where can I get it, right? Is there somewhere I can buy it near me in, brick and mortar shop, or is it something I can buy online? Maybe they're going to look at Amazon, comparing prices with different retailers. And intent is, okay, now they've made a decision to actually purchase, right? And then of course, at the very bottom of this, you would have the purchase itself. So in thinking about this customer journey, right, and thinking about those 17 to 20 some odd touch points that people have to take, right, a question that we get asked a lot is, well, what are the best channels to sort of cover the full spectrum here, right? So the sort of the right channels is a little bit subjective, but what I will talk about today is how some channels are just better suited for different stages of this journey, right? So what I'll probably do is start at the bottom and kind of work my way up. The really obvious one for intent, right, is going to be search, right? So when people are searching for brand terms, obviously they already know who you are because otherwise why would they be searching for your term, right? If they're searching for your category of product, they have to know that it exists, right? So they've already at least progressed past discovery and they're now into consideration, most likely at the very least. But, if the term is like buy X online or best prices on whatever, I mean, they're probably down here towards the bottom of the funnel. So search is a no-brainer. You for sure want to have, a brand terms campaign going. You may want to run a generic terms campaign. And whether or not that is economically feasible for you is going to depend on what kind of budget you have to work with. Are your conversion rates sufficient to make it work with the competitive landscape on those channels and so forth. Now, consideration sort of sits right in the middle, right? Let me actually go up to the top first and then I'll come back to the middle. So discovery, you have a lot of different options here. And obviously search is not going to be the best one. Display would be a good one. So whether you want to do programmatic buying or you want to serve on native, if you want to do just let's say work with an ad network, or if you want to go on social, right? All of those are viable options to basically get your message out for the first time. And they all sort of have their strengths and weaknesses. At least in the olden days with display, a lot of times you didn't have as much control over people's sort of behaviors and interests and things like that. It really was more based on context. So if I am Toyota and I know that my target demographic is males within a particular age range or who are into trucks, let's say, in the olden days I might have gone out and just done direct buy on Car and Driver or something like that, right? That makes sense. The beauty of stuff like social is that any information that users are feeding into the platform about their interests, their behaviors, and so forth now become sort of vectors for targeting, right? Obviously, there's a lot of debate about this in sort of the broader consumer world because that can also be perceived by consumers as sort of a little bit predatory, a little bit invasive. So verdict is out on that. As a marketer yourself, you probably got a different opinion than the average consumer. So social, I kind of see social media as really fitting in sort of the top and middle of this funnel. The beauty of social is that it really straddles that gap. While you are not sort of targeting people explicitly that are looking for your product, unless you're doing a retargeting campaign, in which case that they've already been to your site, or maybe they've already added something to cart but not purchased. The same could really be said of any retargeting, or I should say retargeting via any channel. If you're doing like Criteo or Steelhouse display retargeting, if you're doing a retargeting campaign on GDN, then really by default any retargeting campaign kind of comes in at the bottom of the funnel. But so I'm mostly focusing on prospecting here. So again, while you can't know that somebody is looking for your product, what you can do from a prospecting perspective on social is you can really zero in a couple of different key ways. So you can go after people that have relevant interests and behaviors, maybe related to the product that you're selling. So if you are maybe, let's say you're a competitor for VRBO, right, or Airbnb, you're new up and comer in the space. While you're getting in kind of late in the game, but you're going to go after people that have, let's say, travel interests. That's kind of a no-brainer, right? And while they are maybe not explicitly in market for whatever it is you're trying to advertise, like at least you know that that's the kind of person that might buy your product. Even more powerful is stuff like lookalike audiences, potentially. So if you have a seed list of customer data or you have pixel data, right, from previous purchasers, what you can do is you can then build that into a lookalike audience. So you're not, you're essentially not leaving as much to chance. You're basically saying, hey, Facebook, give me people that are like the people that are already consuming my product or service, whatever that may be. And, of course, the thing to watch out for with lookalike audiences, and again, we'll get probably more into, different considerations with audiences in subsequent episodes, but there is this aspect of garbage in, garbage out. There's certain categories of information that Facebook doesn't/can't collect about people. So for instance, if you are a financial services company and you can only work with people with credit scores over a certain level, well, credit score is not something that you can capture in Facebook. And they've since Cambridge Analytica, they've deprecated a lot of their kind of Experian partner categories and things that you might have been able to use in the past to explicitly target people with specific credit score ranges. So in today's world, if you wanted to try to get people with a higher credit score, practically speaking, there's not a direct kind of one-to-one correlation with a lookalike, right? If I plug in a list of people with credit scores over 650 or whatever, whatever that cutoff is, that's not what I'm going to get back out. I'm going to get people that are like those people, but that's not necessarily going to be a tight correlation with credit score. So functionally, what you might find is that if you over-index a bit on those attributes that Facebook doesn't collect explicitly, like credit score, you could feed in a seed list with like a 750, credit score, 800 credit score, and that might get you a bit closer to what you're trying to hit. But there's just certain things that are going to be a little bit difficult to do there. So, getting back to the customer journey, there's not really like a one channel that, there's not, I should say, not really a one specific configuration of channels that you must use in all circumstances, right? Like I said, you can do retargeting across pretty much any channel you want to run on. Whether you want to run on Pinterest or Snap or Facebook or, whatever the case may be. Sure, there are ones like Criteo and Steelhouse, which are specifically for retargeting, so you wouldn't be using those for prospecting. But most channels out there have some capability to build custom audiences for retargeting. And really at that point, it just becomes a matter of testing and seeing, of all those different channels, which is driving you the best return on ad spend. And really the goal is to maximize the area under the curve by figuring out, which prospecting channels are most efficient. And probably the way you want to think about it is your goal for prospecting, people are generally, depending on what you're selling, are generally not going to convert on that first touch. Like we said, it can be as many as 17 or 20 plus touches. So to expect somebody to convert on the initial exposure is probably unrealistic, unless what you're selling is just such an insanely good deal or so inexpensive that it's just an absolute no-brainer, right? It does happen, people do convert in those sessions, but you have to recognize that a lot of times it's going to take kind of teeing it up and then hitting people back on retargeting via one or more platforms to actually get them further down this funnel to make that decision. So, the way that you should really be evaluating prospecting, there's a couple different ways to think about it. Is prospecting a lot of times is sort of buying data, which is then filling your pool for retargeting. So to the extent that you can get people to come in around 100% return on ad spend on prospecting, you're essentially buying data then to fill that pool. So that's a decent and realistic goal to strive for, depending on what you're trying to sell. More considered purchases, maybe that's not as realistic, depending on what it is you're trying to sell. But yeah, you're usually gonna have to wait for that retargeting to to make it up. So if you find that from a prospecting perspective on Facebook, let's say you're able to drive 150% ROAS, and on another channel like Snapchat, you're able to drive 200% ROAS. One conclusion might be, okay, well, I should just only do prospecting on Snapchat. It's more efficient. Well, maybe you actually, if you kind of draw the Venn diagram, maybe you actually have, I'll just draw it since I'm talking about it. Maybe there's some audience overlap here where, user base for, Facebook and Snap is similar. But this is actually, maybe the right answer is you want to do both, because you find that, okay, you're actually hitting some people twice, but then you have a certain percentage of people here with Snap that are getting you this 200% ROAS, but that are not on Facebook or vice versa. So sometimes the right answer is actually running on multiple channels. Then, you're going to maybe retarget via different channels, and you can start to use stuff like Google Analytics to understand the user journey in terms of, hey, when people are exposed in one place as a first touch, right, on one channel, how are they then converting later, right? What are the sort of first touch channels that are driving the best efficiency downstream? That's probably an edge case, but what you might find is that you might be running 3 or 4 different channels from a prospecting perspective, and they're all spending the same. But let's just say hypothetically, it could be that one of those prospecting channels is driving, 90% of the conversion volume from a retargeting perspective on another channel. So those are the types of connections that you need to start to look at. So this will probably be a quick one today. That's just kind of the general way to think about customer journey. You can't really just hang your hat on one specific channel. You do need to diversify your media mix most of the time if you have the budget and the patience and the kind of the willpower to do it. And you can't kind of put all your eggs in one basket. And you are going to need to hit people multiple times and kind of follow them around wherever they go. So hopefully that'll make sense. Hit us up in the comments if you guys have any questions or if there's any other topics that you want us to cover. We're going to be trying to do this every single business day. And once we get enough people to where people are asking us questions in the stream, then great. Then we're going to have that be kind of a live Q&A format. In the meantime, we're just going to kind of do a little potpourri in terms of topics. Cool. Thanks for watching. I'm Nick Sinitra. We're with adQuadrant. This is Ad Q&A. Thank you for watching. Tune in again soon.